So we're here today with Perry Mason. Say hi, Perry. And we decided to flip the switch a little bit. So this time we read a book and then we watched the movie, and now we're going to compare notes.
Yeah, and I took a lot of notes. A full page worth.
A full page.
It's an accomplishment. Like usually I'm typing on my keyboard, but
full page of notes, handwritten, nonetheless.
Yeah, apparently my chicken scratch looks like good penmanship.
It's great.
I was thinking that she was reading as Ankh, Sparrow, Eye of Ra, hieroglyphics, you know.
So we read The Great Gatsby, a classic
By
American novel.
Scott Fitzgerald.
Yes. Yeah.
It's been around for centuries, and somebody spoiled the book for me, and he said it's been around for almost 100 years, and he said that's no excuse, but I think any kind of spoilers when somebody hasn't seen something is really, really rude. By the way, what's his face's ghost at the end of The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just did that.
I did.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start with the first. I really liked the opening credits of the movie. I thought it was cool. They did like the WB thing. It was
Oh yeah. I like how it made it. It went from 20th Century Fox back in the 20s and 30s, and then brought it forward to the 2000s.
It was nice. It was really cool. And you were digging the soundtrack, you were telling me.
The soundtrack was really good, and I know you were having issues with some of the soundtrack.
I was having issues with the soundtrack, that's for sure.
I thought, honestly, you got to make something new to make it enjoyable.
Relevant.
And they did everything they could to make this movie as enjoyable with how trashy the story is. Sorry.
Harry wasn't a fan of the book itself.
My opinion is, I'm very opinionated. My opinion is that just because it's old doesn't mean it's good. He had some very good, quotes that I actually marked in my book. He had some, they were amazing, but it seemed like the entire book was based around those, few quotes that eventually became famous. He should have just wrote those quotes down, and maybe he would have been popular because of that. Apparently he's written quite a few novels.
I haven't read any of it. So
I don't know.
Yet.
Yeah. I don't know, you can see what he wrote.
The same way.
I'm going to see.
He's checking.
While I'm checking, she's going to...
I'm going to continue. Yeah, so as far as some of the character choices, like the actor choices for what I imagined in the book, I had a problem with who they chose as Tom.
Same here. I don't think he was big enough.
Yeah, the book talks about how he's supposed to be kind of big and bulky and kind of a shock of a human being.
I was thinking the old cartoon Superman, where it's a giant torso,
little
tiny legs. But...
Yeah, every time they described him in the book, it was his big hulking figure, or his big, he's huge or whatever. And he was
and he's always forceful with Nick. He was always every time Nick would leave, he would have the strength to stop him. But it didn't. I couldn't believe that anybody could have stopped Tobey Maguire because he was Spider-Man. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire. You're not a fan of his either, right?
No. Well, actually, he did really good in that movie because it didn't require much acting.
Well, and also his natural person seemed really close to the character, just kind of bland and not very excitable. I
think he just doesn't have. When you look at somebody, you can usually it seems like you can see intelligence behind their eyes, and he's just one of those actors that I don't know if it's called doe-eyed. I think is what it's called.
There's not much
just
intelligence.
Deer in the headlights, just somebody shining light on them, oh, really? Look, yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah,
I agree with that. I thought that so the way that the book was written was kind of interesting because it would be talking about a scenario and then it would immediately jump into something else, and it was kind of hard to follow a little bit. The way they kind of worked with that in the movie was they had Nick being like talking to a therapist or some sort of counselor or something. So they like broke up the stories like that. It was kind of a cool transition because he would be like talking about something and then like they'd break it off and the therapist would be like, all right, tell me about this scenario. And then that's how they would jump into.
Yeah, instead of him basically doing a narration like he did in the book, yeah, after reading it, I need plenty of therapy.
Maybe you need a life coach.
And maybe I need a life coach.
You never know.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of uhs and ums in my conversations, by the way. With the way, I know I don't mean to be poo-pooing all over your book. Like,
I actually wasn't a huge fan of the book either.
The thing about the book was the part that was really enjoyable for the book, and I recommend read it because, like I said, it's 200 plus pages, really tiny book, but you glean something of the past out of it. You can actually see how part of the rich society was back in the 1900s and early 1900s, 1919s and 1920s, 19-teens. I don't know. I don't know how to say that. Really. The 1910 through 1920.
Yeah.
And
that time period.
That time period, you get to see how one driving was just reckless, obviously.
So scary to even watch a little bit.
It reminded me of my childhood, just being thrown in the back of the freaking station wagon. 18 of us just going down to the lake. Yeah, if we had a convertible, we would have all been dead.
Yeah, I also wasn't a huge fan of the way that Jordan was portrayed in the movie either. Because in the book, she's very like sure of herself. She's very independent. And there were several like points in the movie where like a man would like steal her away and she kind of just like went along, which I didn't think she was that.
What was up with that?
I don't know.
Their whole dynamic, their relationship was a side note. And the whole book is about him and his experience with Gatsby, but it also explained his flame during the summer.
He spent a lot of time with her.
He spent a lot of time with her, and everything was basically him with her on his arm.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know if I can picture. They had no chemistry whatsoever in the movie. At all.
I don't know if I've ever seen Tobey Maguire have chemistry with another actress.
Even with Kirsten Dunst.
It's like a little harsh, but like,
Yeah, even the famous Spider-Man kiss. Like, yeah, no, there was
That was
no
a great
chemistry.
scene, but like,
yeah,
it wasn't there. I mean, that's what it is. But yeah, I just wasn't a fan of like how in the movie she was portrayed as a little weaker. Like, she kind of just like let those other guys steal her away at the party. And in the book, she's very much like nobody really tells her what to do. She's more of like independent kind of, I thought.
In the beginning of the movie, they showed how her independence when she's like, be quiet, I'm trying to listen. Like, she's very demanding. And I was like, oh, great. Like, that's good. And then, like you said, when the guy at the party, we have to go now. And it's
like several times he was like ordering her around and she was just like taking it. And I was like, yeah, that's not really like what she would do.
Yeah.
In the 200 pages that I read. I know obviously so much about her and her personal choices.
One thing that I did enjoy about the movie was the visuals. Like, I
was just gonna say,
it reminded me of, I don't know if you saw it, it's like called Pan. It's like the Peter Pan remake where they have him flying through all the stars and planets and everything, how it was visually stunning. In this, just the amount of work that went into the vehicles, the parties, everything that was going on was just, it was, I don't know, very eye-pleasing.
Yeah, definitely. At first, the first several times that I watched the movie first, it was years ago, like several times, and I thought the CG was kind of like a little too whimsical for me. But after reading the book, it's kind of the way that Nick sees his entire environment. Everything's exciting, everything's like lively and kind of overboard. So it makes sense in the movie that everything's kind of like, visually like popping and a little like extra.
Yeah. And you're right, because when he was explaining, he's like, it's the best summers of my life.
Yeah.
The best summers of my life were at the Gatsby house and all the parties.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so it kind of was fitting because it was like he was seeing it in kind of like a over enunciated sort of vision of like his environment or whatever. So I thought that was kind of cool.
So one of the funniest scenes in the movie that I thought, and I actually made a note of this, was they were talking about all the different characters that would come to his parties, and they had they had like high schoolers, they had college students, they had governors, the mobsters, every walk of life. And the funniest scene though was when I saw the I don't know why they dwelled on it with the camera, was when the high schooler had a fake bottle of champagne with a bunch of glitter, and he's just sitting there dumping the glitter on the girl when she's drunk, and you can tell she's
just like trying to like brush it off.
Worst hangover, trying to get rid of this guy, or she's just like blitzed.
They spent so much time filming that one particular.
It was literally like a minute of him just. I think
we commented on like audibly, like, really, this is still happening. He's still pouring the glitter.
It's
over and over. We also kind of discussed a little bit about how Tom's character was portrayed in the movie versus the book, because the book kind of had him be like, you know, he kind of like slept around a little, but like not like overly so. He wasn't like I think they mentioned he had like an affair with like one of the chamber
somebody
one of the maids or something.
The reason why she moved from Chicago, it was because one of the girls broke her arm in a car accident, which they kept in the movie, part in the movie, but it was more along the lines of like he was having a fling, and except for this girl, she was supposed to be robust. I really like the actress that played her, but they didn't show. Honestly, I think they didn't show enough of her character. If they would have made her Daisy, it would have been. I think the movie would have been
she has a really neat presence on the camera. Like, you could feel it. It's really intense. And also because like they kind of made him like at the party, he's supposed to be like, they go to Gatsby's party, all of them, after Daisy and like Nick, or not Nick, Gatsby are kind of like seeing each other again or whatever. And so they all go to the party, and Tom is like shown by like looking for looking to sleep with somebody or looking to like hit on somebody, and it really wasn't.
No, it was kind of it was literally the book described them as a rich couple where they're like, he likes other women and I like this other dude, and okay, but they portrayed Tom as a jealous person in the book, but they didn't portray him as like he was looking to get action everywhere. Yeah. And one thing they didn't do in the movie is like when he actually hit his mistress, he broke her nose in the book, and freaked everybody out. Yeah. In the movie, he slapped him, and I don't know, maybe they kept it out because it was too graphic for the demographic.
It was a little bit like, yeah. Well, like also, I thought this when I read the book and when I watched the movie, that Nick seems to be kind of cool with just letting Gatsby use him to get to Daisy. Like, I thought that was weird. Like, he was just kind of like fine with it. Like, I guess, you want to be friends with me so you could talk to my cousin. I don't know.
But he's like, he never experienced that in his life. Yeah. And that's a good point. He had such a good time. Because Tom was very forceful about hanging out with him. Gatsby sent him an invitation, and Nick showed up, and he was like, "Oh, just do what you want to do." He never forced him to do anything. Yeah. And then when Nick did Gatsby a favor, he's like, "Hey, let me pay you back," because he's so used to people using him. And when Nick was offended by it, he's like, "Just let me do you this favor." That, in my mind, and probably in Gatsby's mind, in my opinion, was putting Nick ahead of every one of his friends.
Yeah, very true.
Because he offered him a job, and he's like, no, I don't need any of that.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that like Gatsby, everything he did was to get Daisy back. Like, everything he did, even like when he eventually has her over for the party, like, and she like barely made a sign that she didn't like it, he's like freaking out, like, oh, she didn't like it, she didn't like it. And I thought that was very interesting about his character.
I think DiCaprio portrayed Gatsby perfectly on that because, and I'm normally not a fan of DiCaprio, but he did such a good job on portraying Gatsby with how somebody in their own mind can build a person up and then
put him on a pedestal.
Like what you're doing is you're making an entire romantic novel in your head about this person, how everything's going to be perfect. You're gonna have kids. You're gonna get married, have 3 kids, have a big house. You're gonna do everything. You support and love each other, and there's not gonna be any arguments. And you only dated this person for like 6 months.
That's exactly what I did. Like, exactly.
But you put everything. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Good.
But I've seen this. I've seen it happen. Apparently, it happened with.
It happened
Jess.
to me. That is what it is.
I've seen it happen, and where somebody they meet somebody and they connect so well,
It's the
but then
ideal.
they separate. It was like a one and done, a fling, and then one of them is like moves on with their life. The other one's like leaves or goes on, because I know a lot of friends in the Navy, and they would leave and they'd come back and they'd be like, oh my God, what happened to such and such? They moved on with their life. And they were like so heartbroken because the entire time they were out at sea, they were literally dwelling on that person the entire time because, I mean,
what else
you
you
can
gonna
face it, yeah. I understand it's heartbreaking because when somebody cares that much for somebody else and they don't.
He was more in love with the idea of it, I think, than actually her. Yeah. Because even at the end, it talks about how like Daisy and Tom and all those people were just like, they were just terrible people. Like the quote that they
are literal terrible people.
It was a great quote. It was talking about how like they're people that just. Oh, here it is. Yes.
Did you highlight it? I know.
No, they were careless people, Tom and Daisy. They smashed up things and creatures and then retreated back into their money and vast carelessness, or whatever it was, that kept them together, and let other people clean up the mess that they had made.
Yeah, that is, and I know people.
That was a great quote.
I know people like that.
Yeah. So it was like he didn't even realize that Daisy was just kind of a crappy person, but they had like this instant like. They had this instant connection, and so he built a life of like ideas, like you were saying about her.
And and even so, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is Nick being in love with Daisy, his cousin.
Yeah,
that was like, even in the book, it was really weird. It talks about weird. How her voice would like, take his attention.
And like, yeah.
But
when he walks in the room and like the wind's blowing and he's just like captivated by her. It's strange.
He was romanticizing his cousin, and it was kind
of weird.
It was, you could tell it was like the 1920s because, or maybe Europe. I don't know,
He's like watching them as like they kiss at one point. It's like,
And even in the book, it said and I think they even commented in the movie about how he likes to watch. That's something that Nick likes to do.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's a lot of innuendo right in that. Yeah, no,
totally. And Tobey Maguire pulled that off so well. Like so well. That's the one part he was like peeking around the corner.
Oh, and then what was him closing the door and coming down slowly down the stairs?
There's a scene where they're like Gatsby and Daisy are having like clearly a moment. And so he was like watching from above, and so he like slowly like closes the curtain to like not watch and give them privacy, but then he slinks down the stairs.
No, it was literally it was him closing the curtain. It's like this. Like, yeah. I'm like, what are you
like still looking underneath it? Yeah.
Just it's like walking. It's like I don't know. It's like walking in on somebody in the bathroom. You're just like, oh. Slam the door. Like,
yeah, totally not like that.
They're getting naked. Let's slam the curtain.
Definitely, totally.
But it does explain. Why Gatsby was so infatuated with Daisy, because even her cousin was in love with her. I mean,
yeah, she was captivating.
Yeah,
to say them captivating.
Captivating. That's such a good word use.
It's a great word. The one thing that did not happen is at the end. Okay, so I didn't quite finish it in time to watch the movie, which actually played a part for me because I finished reading, like, it was like 20 pages from the end, and it was a scene with the funeral, and like he was over and we're like, let's just watch it. So we just watched it, and then I finished it the next day, and the rest of it wasn't even in the movie.
Yeah, no.
Like, at all.
At all. Like, the dad coming over, the dad...
That was a big deal.
That was a huge deal.
It, like, explained why Gatsby, like, became so big, and how is because he was, like... His dad talks about how he had, like, early on wrote this schedule for himself about how he would get up and exercise and do personal development.
It showed
I do that, but, like...
a glimpse into his past.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is, like, in the book, they don't... He wasn't involved in mobsters or anything. He was more along... Like, there were theories that it was like a, what do they call it? Booze runner? Bootlegger.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but my guess, and they kind of made a mention of it in the movie, but my guess was that he was, like, selling fake bonds.
Yeah, they did mention
because,
it at the movie.
In the book, they mention it, like, right at the end. He said something about bonds in California, his or whatever. One of his associates calls him and he talks about bonds in California, and like Nick answered is what happened.
Yeah.
And that was after Gatsby had died, and
he dies, by the way.
Oh, spoiler alert!
No, I write on there spoilers.
Oh.
Yeah, so he dies.
Yeah, he
really.
It's a 100-year-old book, as my buddy would say.
Yeah, read it. But like, actually, the whole scenario how he died was kind of sad because it was a completely misunderstanding and just a big, huge, and sad.
Even
sad
after, she left, he still had hope that she was going to call him. And in the movie, they showed that was a good portrayal where they showed he's like, "Is that Daisy?" And then, but
yeah,
there's. Everybody in that society was like he hung out with was callous. Every single one.
Oh yeah.
And it, like
they didn't show that really in the movie as much because in the end in the book, Nick hangs out for like several days at the house answering, like trying to get a hold of friends to like get people to come to his like Gatsby's service or whatever. No one would answer. Nobody would like come over. Everybody's like, well, I have this other thing to do. It's like this party I have to go to or something. Like nobody. The only person who showed, I think, was his dad. Yeah. And I wish they like. I see why they like run time. They didn't have time for that, but like that was what his dad explained was like a huge part of his success.
They could have cut out some things to fit in.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I agree.
They could have cut something out because that was such an important part of the book to show. It was basically to show that he wasn't like brought him down a level. Like the Great Gatsby came from a humble background, and they don't. And people that watch the movie never read the book. I'm sure maybe that's why they did it to get people to buy the book and read the book. But I don't know how much more money does the Great Gatsby need.
The foundation or whatever. Yeah, like, I don't know. I think the sad thing about it was, like, he did all this for, like, Daisy, and all of these people that would frequent his parties, like, nobody actually cared about him, which was so sad, because, like, Nick talks about how, like, he had nobody. Like, he had nobody who cared about him, nobody who actually, like, knew him at all. Yeah. Like, and it was kind of just, it's kind of sad. Like, and even Daisy at the end, they just pack up and leave. Like, Tom and Daisy and their daughter, which, like, she's barely mentioned, like, in the book and the movie.
Yeah, she was mentioned once, yeah. Once
in the movie. But, like, they just go. They just, like, pack up and leave, and it's crazy.
You mentioned this, too, and when he goes up and he's talking to, when Nick's talking to Jordan, and That's another thing. Sorry, I'm kind of changing. They didn't show enough of the relationship between Nick and Jordan, and we both agree on that.
Not at all.
But the fact when Nick comes up and goes, "I'm done with them, all of them," and Jordan gets pissed off. There's no explanation for it because in the movie they don't even touch up that they had a relationship. Like,
no.
I think it showed him just trying like running into her.
Yeah, like once or twice. Which, like, you were saying that in the, like, it doesn't actually make sense, the scene where she gets so upset, because
super mad.
If they had maybe hung out 1 or 2 times and he's like, no, I just want to be by myself, or I'm done with all of these people, she'd have been like, oh, cool,
okay.
I'll go,
whatever.
like, hang out with somebody else.
Yeah.
But in the
Especially
movie...
with how callous they are.
right. Who's throwing the next party?
Yeah.
So, like, because... you know, they had a relationship and they were like close at one point and had like some chemistry or whatever. And then at the end where he's like, no, I'm done with all of them. I'm done with you even. And she's kind of like, wow, like that kind of hurts. It makes more sense in the book because they had a thing. Like, it was kind of, it was kind of big actually. Like, they had a thing and they just didn't really, I don't think they did enough of that, which is too bad because it seemed, maybe they tried.
And there was no chemistry.
And there was no chemistry. Maybe they tried and they're like, this is Tobey Maguire, what are we doing? Like, this is not gonna work.
Do we have a high schooler that we can pair with him? Maybe they have the same emotional fortitude right there.
The same, like, maturity level. Yeah.
It's not, I don't know. Tobey Maguire could be the most, like, really mature, but he just comes off as a child. Like a big man baby.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe they like tried to do that and they're like, yeah, this is just not gonna work.
If they would have switched Nick and Tom, I could see that.
You could see Tobey Maguire as Tom?
No, sorry. If you get rid of Toby and the guy that played, I don't know his
Gatsby?
name. No, Tom. The guy that played Tom and put him as Nick's role.
Oh, I could see that.
Because he was emotionless and like going with, like, I can see him going with the flow.
Yeah.
I can't see, like, if that guy got angry, the guy that played Tom there, I don't know if I would be scared.
It's just like the whole
laugh a little bit. But
yeah, the whole slinkiness of him being a creep just seemed to work really well. They're probably like, you know what, this is not going to work with Jordan, but this is going really well. We should keep this. Like, it just works. You know, you gotta make choices, I guess. But overall, I gave the book 3 stars.
Historical insight, like of how it was in the past. It's a
classic. It's considered
2
American
stars.
2.
But I would
like
say
the time period a lot.
The time period, it's just cool. Weird. Like
it was really cool.
It did. The only thing I would say to read it for would be historical. If it's like history class, I'd say, oh yeah, this is a week. You read this book for a week. It's not going to take you that long. Maybe if you're
it won't take you that long.
Maybe if you're in 2nd grade. But as a history lesson away, maybe a writing class on how not to jump around.
How not to write.
It's called a segue. That it's when one thing leads into another.
Just like normal. Basic writing concepts.
Basic writing class. It's more than I ever did though, so I can't talk smack about that. Usually I get about 2 pages into writing something and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm done.
Yeah, it was good. It was a good go.
Ooh, look, a squirrel.
It was a good go. Yeah, so I don't know. I think I liked the movie. The book was okay. The story would have been better, I think, had it been written a little differently. I think.
It had depth. It had more than just a weird plot. Yeah. I can't even think of what to say about it. The movie, I would say.
I liked the movie.
It reminded me of like a lesser version of The Greatest Showman. Greatest Showman was really good.
Is that a book?
I don't know. I think next time.
Next time. Actually, what are we reading next? Do you want to announce it?
It's gonna be a while, but Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. That's what we're reading next.
I just finished it and you need to catch up.
You finished it?
Yeah. And I've seen, if you haven't seen the movie, I'm not spoiling it for you. I mean,
okay, if you haven't seen the movie, you live in
Yeah.
America, you should probably say
I
Jurassic
work with
Park.
somebody that hasn't seen it, and I'm criticizing him and judging him every day until he watches it.
Gotta love it. All right, well, we thanks for watching. We're so happy that Perry could come over and we could do this together. So we'll see you next time. Look at all these books. It's a great bookshelf. It's really sturdy. Don't lean against it.
Let me just pull up this book. Sorry. She's going to edit that out.
On the blooper reel. All right, we'll see you next time.